You look a narcissist dead in the eye and say, I don't need you. That one sentence flips their entire game upside down because their control, their manipulation, their fake power, none of it works when you no longer feed them with your attention. They thrive on your reaction, they live off your need for their approval, but the moment you declare you don't need them, you strip them of oxygen. It's like pulling the plug on their entire performance. Suddenly the spotlight they built for themselves goes dark, and the fear sets in, because without you playing along, their show doesn't exist. When you tell a narcissist, I don't need you, you're not just saying words, you're cutting off the very air they breathe. Because make no mistake, their entire sense of power, their whole twisted system of control, is built on the belief that you rely on them. They thrive when you hesitate. They thrive when you second guess yourself. They thrive when they see you bend, when they see you seek their approval, when they know they've got their hooks in you. And for so long, you probably thought you had no choice but to play their game. You thought if you didn't keep the peace, if you didn't give in, if you didn't soften yourself, you'd lose something important. But here's the truth. You lose more by staying under their thumb than you ever will by breaking free. See, a narcissist survives on control. It's not about love, it's not about respect, it's not about partnership, it's about them keeping you in a box where you're easy to manipulate, where they can predict your every move, where you're so tangled up in their approval that you don't even notice your own strength anymore. They want you to believe that you need them because that belief is the leash. That belief is the chain. And the second you open your mouth and say, I don't need you, that chain shatters. Think about it like this. A narcissist is like a puppeteer, and every string is tied to your fear of rejection, your fear of loneliness, your fear of not being enough. And as long as you stay quiet, as long as you let them keep pulling, you move when they say move, you dance when they say dance. But when you declare, I don't need you, you take scissors to every single string. You cut the connection. You stop moving on their command. Suddenly they're left holding a bundle of useless strings. And there's nothing more terrifying to a narcissist than realizing they no longer have control. They'll try to come back harder, of course. They'll push buttons, they'll guilt trip, they'll gaslight, because control is all they've got. But here's the difference. You've already pulled the plug. Once you say those words and mean them, they can't own you anymore. They can't make you flinch, and that is a power they'll never admit you have. But deep down, it scares the hell out of them, because you've taken away the one thing they can't live without: your dependence. And let's be real, this isn't just about them. This is about you. Because when you stand up and say, I don't need you, you're not only breaking their control, you're reminding yourself that you were never weak, you were never powerless, you were never trapped. You were convinced of those things, sure, but the moment you cut through that lie, you reclaim every ounce of your strength. You remember who you are without them. You remember that your worth doesn't come from their opinion, their approval, or their attention. Your worth comes from you. And that realization, that's freedom. So why does it break their control? Because control doesn't work on someone who knows they can walk away. Control doesn't work on someone who knows they'll be fine on their own. Control doesn't work when you stop playing the game. And that's the key. This sentence isn't about playing their game better. It's about flipping the board, walking away, and letting them scramble in the ruins of the control they thought they had. There's a kind of silence that follows those words, and it's not empty. It's powerful. It's the silence of a person who just chose themselves over manipulation. It's the silence of a person who no longer needs permission to breathe. It's the silence of someone who knows their peace is more valuable than any toxic connection. And in that silence, the narcissist feels it, the loss of their grip, the collapse of their false dominance. That's why they fear it. That's why they fight it. Because once you've broken free, once you've told them you don't need them, they know there's no going back. So understand this, the sentence is simple, but the power is massive. It's not just about speaking it, it's about living it. It's about standing in the truth that you don't need anyone who tries to control you, belittle you, or make you doubt yourself. And once you live in that truth, you become untouchable. A narcissist is an addict, and their drug of choice is you, not your love, not your presence, not your loyalty. The thing they crave is your reaction. Your attention, your energy, your validation, your anger, your tears, even your silence when it's heavy with pain. That's the supply they run on. It's the fuel that powers their ego, the mirror that reflects back the image they want to believe about themselves. And here's the harsh reality. The moment you cut off that supply, the whole machine falls apart. They can't function without it. They'll act like they can, they'll posture like they don't care, but deep down the emptiness starts to eat them alive. Think about it. Every manipulation, every lie, every guilt trip, every insult is designed to squeeze something out of you. They poke at your insecurities to make you defend yourself, because even your defense is attention. They ignore you to make you chase them, because your pursuit reminds them they're important. They criticize you so you'll overcompensate, because your effort feeds their ego. Every move they make is a test. Can I get a reaction? Can I pull a drop of energy out of you? As long as you give it, they win. But the second you step back and stop feeding them, the second you detach and say no more, you take away their supply. And that's the one thing they fear most. You want to know why they'll rage when you stop reacting? Because indifference is death to them. Your silence, your calm, your refusal to engage, it's like cutting off oxygen to a fire. At first it burns hotter, louder, more violent, trying to survive. That's the rage, that's the tantrum. But if you hold your ground, if you keep your energy for yourself, the fire suffocates, it dies out. And there's nothing more terrifying to a narcissist than realizing they can't pull anything out of you anymore. And here's where most people slip. They think cutting off supply means no contact only, but it's deeper than that. It's emotional detachment. You could still live in the same house, work in the same office, share the same space, but if you refuse to give them the emotional reaction they're fishing for, you've starved them. They'll throw bait at you. They'll try everything in the book: praise, insults, fake apologies, sudden affection, cold withdrawal, because they're desperate for a hit of your attention. But when you stop taking the bait, when you recognize the game and step out of it, you leave them stranded in their own emptiness. And that emptiness terrifies them. Because here's the secret: beneath all the arrogance and bravado, a narcissist is hollow. They don't have a solid sense of self. They borrow yours. They build their identity on how much they can make you react, how much they can make you care, how much they can make you need them. Take that away, and they're left staring at a void they can't fill. That's why they scramble. That's why they panic. That's why they fear the moment you say, "I'm not giving you my energy anymore." But this isn't just about making them fear. It's about protecting yourself. Every time you feed a narcissist, you drain yourself. You hand over your peace, your clarity, your emotional balance, just so they can feel big for 5 minutes. And what do you get in return? More demands, more manipulation, more chaos. Cutting off supply isn't cruel, it's survival. It's choosing to put your energy where it belongs, in building your own peace, your own growth, your own strength. And make no mistake, they'll notice. They'll notice when you don't flinch at the insult. They'll notice when you don't chase after their cold shoulder. They'll notice when you don't fall for their fake apology, their sudden charm, their crocodile tears. At first it'll confuse them, then it'll frustrate them, then it'll scare them, because they know if they can't get a reaction from you, they've lost their grip. And once you stop supplying them, you hold the power. So the lesson is simple: starve the beast, refuse to be their fuel, refuse to let your energy, your emotions, your attention be the drug that keeps their ego alive. And watch what happens. They wither, they scramble, they fade, and you grow stronger, you become untouchable. You finally realize the freedom that comes from no longer feeding something that was only ever designed to drain you. That's why cutting off supply is everything. It's the difference between living in their shadow and stepping into your own life. It's the difference between being controlled and being free. And once you stop feeding them, once you stop being the source of their power, they're left with nothing but fear. Fear of irrelevance, fear of emptiness, fear of the truth. And that's a fear they'll never escape. Power is a funny thing. For a narcissist, it's never about real strength. It's about illusion. They build their throne out of smoke and mirrors, convincing you that they're in charge, that you depend on them, that without them, you'd crumble. And for a while maybe you believed it. Maybe they were so convincing, so manipulative, that you started to think you actually needed their validation to feel whole. But the second you say, "I don't need you," everything shifts. That one sentence takes their illusion of power and flips it upside down. Suddenly the balance tilts, and for the first time you're standing above them. See, a narcissist only has power if you give it. Let that sink in. They don't create power on their own. They leech, they drain it out of you through your reactions, through your fears, through your willingness to play by their rules. Their dominance is built on borrowed energy, and you were the one lending it. But when you wake up to that truth, when you realize you never actually needed them in the first place, you stop lending it. You take it back. And the moment you do, you shift the power dynamic completely. This is why they fear those words. Because when you say, "I don't need you," you're declaring independence. You're saying their approval doesn't define you. You're saying their games don't move you. You're saying their control doesn't cage you anymore. And that declaration is more powerful than any insult, any threat, any silent treatment they could ever throw your way. It's a power they can't fight, because it's not about them, it's about you reclaiming yourself. Think of it like a seesaw. When they're up,
it's only because you're down. Their sense of importance relies on pressing you lower, on making you feel small, on making you believe they're the center of gravity. But when you rise up and take your seat of power, when you stand tall in your worth and refuse to be pressed down, the seesaw flips, they fall. They're no longer the one calling the shots. And the hardest part for them, they know they can't push you back down, unless you let them, and that scares them to death. Because deep down, they know the truth. They're not strong without someone to stand over. They don't know who they are when they're not controlling someone else. They can't function when the balance of power is ripped away. So when you flip it, when you take back control, when you rise and declare your independence, you're not just shaking them, you're dismantling the entire foundation they built their false power on.
And here's the beauty, you don't have to fight them to do it. You don't have to yell, argue, prove yourself, or play their games. You don't have to match their energy. All you have to do is stand in your truth and refuse to give them what they want. That's the shift. Power doesn't always come from noise. It comes from presence, from certainty, from knowing that you don't need what they're trying to dangle in front of you. That's real strength. And once you step into that strength, you'll notice something. Their words don't cut as deep anymore. Their tricks don't land the same. Their silence doesn't scare you. Their anger doesn't shake you. Their praise doesn't hook you. Why? Because when you don't need them, you don't fear losing them. And that's freedom. That's the moment you stop being their puppet and start being your own person again. Of course, they'll fight it. They'll test it. They'll try to claw back control because the shift terrifies them. They'll throw tantrums. They'll guilt trip. They'll try charm. They'll use whatever they can to flip the seesaw back. But you've already broken the illusion. You've already seen the truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you feel the power of standing on your own, you'll never go back to kneeling at their feet. That's why shifting the power matters so much, because it's not just about making them fear you, it's about reminding yourself that you were never beneath them in the first place. You just forgot your power for a while. But when you reclaim it, when you live in it, when you stand tall and say, I don't need you, you don't just change the dynamic, you end it, you break the cycle, you take back your life. And here's the final truth, they'll hate it, but they'll respect it. They'll fear it, but they'll remember it. Because in that moment when the power shifts, they know they can't control you anymore. And nothing, absolutely nothing, terrifies a narcissist more than losing control. When you tell a narcissist, I don't need you, you're doing more than breaking control, more than cutting supply, more than shifting power, you're ripping the mask off and exposing their deepest, darkest fear. Because behind all the arrogance, all the fake confidence, all the loud bragging and smooth manipulation, there is one truth they never want anyone to see. They are terrified of being abandoned. They are terrified of being irrelevant. They are terrified of being nothing without someone else to feed off of. And those 4 words shine a spotlight directly on that fear. Understand this, narcissists don't build relationships, they build safety nets. Every person in their life is a backup plan, a source of fuel, a mirror to reflect back the image they want to believe about themselves. And their biggest nightmare is losing that mirror, losing that supply, losing that person who keeps filling the emptiness inside them. When you say, I don't need you, you take the nightmare and make it real. You show them that their greatest fear has arrived, and it's standing right in front of them. This is why they fight so hard to keep you hooked. This is why they'll say anything, do anything, promise anything, just to keep you tangled up in their world. Because as long as you're there, they don't have to face that emptiness. As long as you're giving them attention, they don't have to admit how hollow they really feel inside. But the moment you refuse, the moment you stand firm and say you don't need them, you expose the truth they run from every single day. That without you, they're just a scared, insecure person hiding behind a mask. And that exposure burns them. It doesn't just sting, it terrifies them. Because now the game is over, they can't hide behind manipulation. They can't distract you with charm. They can't bait you with guilt. You've seen the truth, and once it's seen, it can't be unseen. And the truth is this, their fear is bigger than their ego. Their insecurity is stronger than their bravado, and their weakness is louder than their lies. But here's what makes this so powerful. It's not about humiliating them. It's not about tearing them down. It's about refusing to carry their fear for them anymore. For so long you probably absorbed their projections. They made you feel like you were the one who wasn't enough, like you were the one who should be scared of losing them. But the moment you declare your independence, you hand their fear back to them. You refuse to carry it. You refuse to let it live in your mind, and that transfer of weight is what makes them crumble. You see, they can't handle being exposed because exposure makes them vulnerable. And vulnerability is the one thing they cannot tolerate. Their entire identity is built on looking untouchable, on appearing superior, on convincing everyone they're the strong one. But you saying I don't need you is a direct crack in that image. It shows them, and everyone else if they're watching, that their strength was a costume. Deep down they know it. That's why it rattles them. That's why it scares them. Because you've revealed the very thing they work their entire life to cover up. And the beautiful part? You don't even have to shout it. You don't have to scream, argue or prove anything. You can say it calmly. You can say it quietly. You can even just live it without words. By detaching, by refusing to engage, by building your life on your own terms. That's enough. Because whether spoken or unspoken, the message is the same. I am not afraid to lose you. You are afraid to lose me. And that's the truth they can't stand. Once they know you've seen through them, once they realize you've tapped into their core fear, they can never look at you the same. They'll try to act like it doesn't matter. They'll pretend it rolls off their back. But inside they're rattled. Inside they're calculating. Inside they're terrified. Because if you don't need them, then you can't be controlled. If you don't need them, you can't be manipulated. If you don't need them, you can't be kept small. And that means the entire illusion they've built is shattered. So remember this when you speak those words, you're not just protecting yourself, you're forcing them to face the one thing they've spent their whole life running from. You're exposing the truth they can't hide forever. And while that truth may scare them, it sets you free. Because once you stop fearing their opinion, once you stop fearing their absence, once you stop fearing what they might do if you walk away, you realize something powerful. The fear was never yours to carry. It was always there. And the moment you give it back, you step into a strength they can never touch. Protecting your peace is not a luxury, it's survival. When you tell a narcissist, I don't need you, you're not just pushing back against their control, you're building a wall around your peace and saying, this is mine, you don't get to touch it anymore. Because the truth is, dealing with a narcissist is chaos. It's emotional whiplash. One moment they lift you up, the next they tear you down. One day you're everything, the next you're nothing. And living in that storm strips away your clarity, your confidence, your sanity. That's why protecting your peace becomes the most important battle you'll ever fight. And it starts with cutting their grip off your mind. Peace isn't just silence, it's not the absence of conflict. Peace is stability. It's waking up without knots in your stomach, without bracing yourself for the next insult, the next guilt trip, the next manipulation. Peace is being able to breathe freely because you know no one is lurking in the shadows waiting to pull the rug from under you. That's what you gain when you declare I don't need you. You're not only rejecting their control, you're choosing yourself over their chaos. And let's be honest, you can't have peace when you're chained to someone who thrives on destroying it. Narcissists don't want calm. Calm doesn't feed them. They want reaction, drama, turbulence. They stir up storms because storms keep you off balance. And when you're off balance, you're easier to control. That's why choosing peace is the ultimate rebellion. Because the moment you protect it, you deny them access to the one thing they rely on, your emotional instability. Think of it like your mind is a house. For too long you've let them barge through the door, stomp mud all over your floor, rearrange your furniture, and tell you how to live in your own space. And every time you tried to clean up, they made another mess. Every time you tried to organize, they tore it apart. But when you claim your peace, you change the locks. You stop giving them keys, you say this house is mine, you don't live here anymore. And suddenly the space becomes quiet again. It becomes yours again. That's what protecting peace feels like. It's taking back ownership of your inner world. And here's the thing, they hate it. They hate your peace because peace means they've lost their grip. Peace means their chaos no longer works. Peace means they can't manipulate you with highs and lows anymore. To a narcissist, your peace is their defeat. That's why they'll try to shatter it at all costs. They'll throw tantrums, they'll love bomb, they'll gaslight, they'll push every button they know, just to drag you back into the storm. But when you protect your peace, you stop stepping into the storm at all. You let them rage on the outside, while you sit steady on the inside. And there's nothing scarier to them than realizing they no longer have the power to disturb you. But protecting your peace isn't just about shutting them out, it's about filling yourself back up. Because for so long you've been drained, they've taken your joy, your energy, your self-worth. Protecting peace means putting that energy back into yourself. It means building habits that ground you, surrounding yourself with people who lift you, investing your time in things that make you stronger instead of weaker. It means reminding yourself every single day that your worth doesn't come from their opinion, it comes from within you. And that's where the real transformation happens. Because once you live in peace, once you taste that calm, once you realize you don't need to walk on eggshells anymore, you'll never let anyone take it from you again. You'll recognize toxic energy the moment it shows. You'll set boundaries quicker. You'll walk away sooner. Because peace is addictive.
the good kind of addictive. And once you experience it, you won't settle for less. So yes, saying I don't need you scares the narcissist. But more importantly, it frees. It protects your mind, your heart, your spirit. It gives you space to heal, to grow, to rebuild the parts of yourself they tried to break. And in that peace, you find your power. Not the kind of power that controls others, but the kind of power that can't be shaken, can't be manipulated, can't be stolen. The kind of power that comes from knowing you're whole without anyone else's approval. That's why protecting your peace is everything. It's not selfish, it's not cruel, it's survival, and once you choose it, you'll see the truth. Peace is stronger than control, stronger than manipulation, stronger than fear. Peace is the one thing they can't touch once you guard it. And when you stand in that peace, you become untouchable. So here's the bottom line. The power was never theirs. It was always yours. When you say I don't need you, you shatter their control, you cut off their supply, you flip the power dynamic. You drag their deepest fear into the light, and you protect the one thing they can never buy, steal, or fake: your peace. That sentence isn't just words, it's a declaration of freedom. It's the moment you stop living in their storm and start standing in your own calm. It's the moment you stop being a prisoner in their game and start being the author of your own story. And that is what terrifies them most. Not losing you, but losing the ability to own you. So stand tall, say it with certainty, and let them fear. Because their fear is proof of your freedom, and your freedom is the beginning of the life you were always meant to live.